Welcome to this introduction to the user experience in Epicor ERP version 10.2. This session is a continuation from the introduction to Aspera and Epicor Corporation, as well as the introduction to the Epicor ERP product delivered previously. In this session, we are going to review the user experience through navigation, search, as well as other features for collaboration, and communication and reporting that are delivered as standard with the Epicor application. As we saw from the earlier presentation, Epicor is delivered through role-based home pages. So I've logged on here as June, who's a finance user, and so she has an accounting homepage on as her Epicor landing pad. And so we can see here that she's got point-and-click access to various Epicor functions such as journal entry, invoice entry, cash receiving, and so on. And it's single point-and-click access. By clicking on any of those tiles, she gets to that part of the application. And she also has a number of analytics that are available to her, which are key to her role and to help her drive decision-making within her function. I'll replace June's homepage now with Scott's homepage. And so Scott is obviously within sales, so he's got access to things like opportunity and quote entry, open orders, order entry itself, and again, some sales analytics and a task list that he might want to follow. And again, single point and click access will take him to the key functions that he needs from the Epicor application. Changing user again, I'm now moving to a system administrator role within the application, and this is my homepage, and it has a much broader access. So to my homepage, I've added drill downs for things like sales and CRM, supply chain, manufacturing, and finance to give myself a much bigger footprint within the application for the key areas that I might want to access and use. And again, I have my front page with my single point and click access to various functions, as we saw with the other two users. Tiles within the Epicor homepage can also point at external components. So there I have a tile pointing directly at my LinkedIn page. So I can get to an external component. So a tile on the Epicor homepage isn't limited to Epicor. It can be extended to any external component like third-party applications, documents, spreadsheets, websites, and so on and so forth. So in essence, you can actually extend the homepage to make it a user cockpit for all of the key areas that somebody might need to access during the working day. There are other tile types in here, so we can see I've got dashboard links within tiles. So I can drill, say, for example, into my billing and booking dashboard, and this gives us an example of an analytical dashboard or a KPI style dashboard. Giving me a view of a number of different areas of the application. So up here, I'm looking at billing and profitability over time, for example. And to the right of that, I'm looking at my order book and my order book organized by customer. Down in the bottom left, I'm looking at the back orders within the system and to what extent that they set. And on the right-hand side here, I'm looking at my shipping performance and whether I'm shipping early or on time or late and so on. And within that, again, I can drill and I can see that as a graphical representation. And if it's a graphical representation, I can actually shift and move that through 360 degrees in any direction with Epicor. You also have the ability to look at those graphs and change them. So again, I have lots of different graph types available to me, and I can instantly change any graph. Say, for example, a pie chart could be changed to a funnel chart and instantly refreshed. Also with graphics, again, they can appear as thumbnails and you can actually double click on them. You can pull them out of the dashboard, expand them, manipulate them, and when completed, push them back into their thumbnail position very quickly and easily. And again, the data that's delivering this information to the graphical front end is instantly available by drilling down into the underlying transaction sets. And these are delivered as a grid. And grids within the application have quite a lot of power. And we'll talk about grids in just a moment in a lot more detail. So if I close down this dashboard, and I just want to have a look at another type of dashboard. So this is your traffic light type dashboard. So this is real-time operational information. And so this is one that, say, for a manufacturing user or for a finance user to look at job cost exceptions. So here I can see all of my active and open production, for example, each job or work order within the system, what we're making, the quantity that we're making, And I can see then in the next column my total estimated costs and the total actual costs incurred to date, and that reflected as a percentage. So therefore I can then use that to see if, based on the percentage completion, whether I'm in tolerance or out of tolerance in cost. And if I'm going out of tolerance, I can then make the fields change color and make them go amber or make them go red. And again, I can see that split down in further detail out to the right. So I can see my estimated to actual material cost, estimated to actual labor costs, overhead costs, subcontract costs, and so on. And again, one of the things that we mentioned earlier is the dashboards are real-time dashboards. So they're getting that data as it occurs within the application. They're not waiting for data to be replicated to an external data warehouse for analysis. So this is real-time information, and I can determine whether I need to then access those work orders and drill down. So right-click navigation is standard throughout the application, where a user can right-click on anything like a product code, a job number, a customer ID, a supplier ID, an invoice number, and get a context menu. So here I can now drill down and I can look at the job status dashboard, or I can go to the job tracker to get a more detailed analysis of what's happening with that job or work order at that point in time. So as we looked at the other home pages and my home page here, we also saw these on-screen instant analytics delivered to the homepage. So these are the KPIs are the analytics that are most important to me as a user, and I can then display those as tiles within my homepage. Now that's important, the word tile, because tile means I have the capability to drill below those. So looking at these, I'll take the sales open order count, for example, and I want to drill into that. So I can just click on that tile, and that will then take me to the sales order analysis screen. Looking again, this is the same analysis, sales order open order count by customer group. So here are all of my customer groups, and I can see most of my sales are going into my automotive and my commercial group. And so if I want to focus on those, I can highlight those two columns and I can filter down into that section. And now I want to analyze those sales into those customer groups across my different product groups. So now I can see that most of my sales into those two customer groups are in the fabricated and the non-related profit groups or product groups. Now, if I wanted to see that information slightly differently, if I wanted to see it again as a pie, I could change that to a pie and I could see my product groups then displayed on that basis. And if I want to take those two product groups and put a focus into those, then I can filter down into that section and see that in heavier detail. And there's my commercial group. And so within that, I want to see the information that sits behind that. So I can hit export, and that will allow me to send that data out as a CSV or to a spreadsheet, or I can see it on screen. And so there's all of the different sales transactions that are making up that particular group. So you have this instant capability to slice and dice the data within the analytics on your home page and to pivot that data. And that comes from a tool called Epicor Data Discovery. And these tiles, these analytics, are not limited to your Epicor homepage. I can also access them through a browser page. Now, as a systems administrator, I have access to all of the analytics that come out of the box with the Epicor application, and there are nearly 30 tiles delivered as standard, covering finance such as accounts payable and receivable, customer analysis. There's also inventory analysis, production analytics, quotation analytics, and so on and so forth. So there's a lot of analysis and analytical tiles available as standard. So if I click on the analytical tile, just as I did within the Epicor client, such as H payables, it takes me down into that analysis, but it takes me to it through a browser screen. So you can see that you don't need to be logged into the Epicor client in order to access these analyses and to be able to do the same level of work within those. So I can click on sections or multiple sections, and I can filter those sections and start analyzing them in a slightly different way as I did on my homepage within the Epicor application. A key feature of this, by the way, so I am set up as a super user within the tool, so I get this plus feature, and this allows me to create new analytics from scratch. And so just to show you how this works, I can connect to the various data sources. So there's an ad hoc query tool called Business Activity Query in Epicor, and when you create the queries, it then allows you to link your analytics directly to those. So I'm going to take an existing query rather than creating a new one, and we'll do an aged receivables analysis. So I want to create a new analysis based on my aged receivables query. So we select that, and it brings me into my design page. So what do I want to analyze? Well, I want to analyze, say, for example, customer aging by customer. And so let's have a look here. We've got my measures and we've got our dimensions. So the measures, the data I can analyze and how I can slice and dice that data within the system. So we'll take my measures, for example, my aged amount, and we'll add that as a column within my tile or my analysis. And I want to see that by customer. So we'll take this customer information and we'll pull the customer out and we'll add that in as a row. Instantly now I get my analysis. I've got my customers going down the left-hand bar and my values going across the bottom. So I don't like it that way, so we'll pivot that. So instant pivot to swap those around. And it's showing that information as a bubble or a dot graph, and I would prefer to see that as a bar chart. So we'll change that now to a bar chart. Now I want to be able to filter that data, and so let me see, we want to maybe filter it by aged column, so I can see my aged column exists over here. So we'll pull that across now as a filter, and we'll look at the aging brackets that exist within that data set. And so some of my debt that's owed to me is over 90 days and some is over 120 days. So I just want to focus on the younger debt. So we'll just filter into that, and that's now a filter that's available there. If I want to now save this analysis as is, then there's a save feature in here. I save that, give it a name, and it will add that to a tile. So it will create a new tile on that browser page, on my browser homepage. And once that's done, that becomes available to me for my homepage as well within the Epicor client. So I can then add that to my Epicor homepage. So it's very easy to start building out new analytics, and every single part of the Epicor application is exposed to this tool. So I can build little analytics on any part of the system that I wish. So just looking at my home page here, actually, if I wanted to modify my home page, it's very simple. There's an edit feature up here, so I just click on that, and it brings up this little menu here on the right-hand side. So what do I want to add? Like a link to an Epicor form within the application, a grid like the task list that we saw on Scott's homepage, or a chart view like the little analytics that I've just been working on, an image, a local application or document for external components, social for instant messaging and collaboration, text labels or websites with tiles linking me directly to it. So I'll just take an Epicor screen. So we'll say add an app link. What color do I want my tile to be? And again, there are numerous color palettes within the application. And so what do I want to link to? And if I just click into that field, the app field, and start typing. So say, for example, I wanted to put forecast entry onto my homepage. So I just start typing, and as I type, it will automatically start to filter out through the menu system within Epicor. So there's forecast entry coming from my production management, material requirements planning, general operations, forecast entry menu. And that's the one that I want to add. Now, Epicor is multi-company and multi-site, and so by leaving this tick box switched on, it means that no matter which company I'm in, as long as I have access to that company and site, then forecast entry will open in the current company and site context. If I untick that, it allows me to hard link the tile that I'm creating to a specific company within my group and to a specific site within my group, allowing then that no matter which company I'm currently active in, by clicking that tile, it will open the data for the linked or hard linked company and site. I'm happy enough with everything that's in there. I can also add an image, or I can say accept the default tile image. So I'll accept the default, so I'll just say OK, and the tile gets added to my homepage in the first available spot. Excuse me. I can then move that if I wish. So again, by clicking on the tile, you see these boxes appear underneath. So I want to move it, say, to the middle of the screen, and I want to reduce it so it's fitting in one square. So it's easy to move around. And then I can save that tile, and that tile will now be part of my standard homepage. So it's very simple then to start personalizing and modifying screens and homepages within Epicor. Simple point and click access with the mouse will allow you to do that. From the home page, we also have a menu bar here down the left-hand side. And again, that gives me access to the full menu structure. So again, I can drill into the menu if I wish to. But again, for most users, there's no need for menu-based navigation because the key functions that they need will always be accessible to them on their home page. And that allows me to drill. So going into my menu, I can see sales management, service management, and so on. If I click into sales management, there's customer relationship management, quote management, demand management, order management. And as I click through these, we'll see that the menu path is extending across the top. And so the further I drill down, the more that extends. And again, I can navigate back through that as well. So I can go back to the base menu. I also have a search function. So if I wanted to find order entry, for example, without having to drill through the menu, I can start typing. And again, it will pre-filter and it will start finding its way to the menu option that I am looking for at that point in time. We also have the ability to create favorites lists. So again, I can set a list of favorites if I want to extend beyond my home page footprint, as well as recent items. So again, by clicking on that, it will show me the most recent items I've accessed and opened within the application. And also there's a nice feature called Epicor Social. So this is for instant messaging and collaboration within the application. So by clicking onto that, it brings me into my news feed. And my news feed is giving me both a feed from the Epicor application, notifications that I have asked for, such as customers going on and off hold, or large orders being placed on the system, or large discounts being placed, and so on. So there's a notification center where you can create rules for notifications that you want to receive from ERP within your news feed, at which point then you can repost, reply, recommend, share, and so on. So for example, in this case, I want to share this information or repost or do a reply, and I want to highlight within the newsfeed of that a particular individual. So I want to notify Scott of something. I can just start typing Scott. It picks up Scott as a user. I can type my message. I can insert links, insert images, or attach files to the post as I generated, and that will go as a post to Scott as well as into the newsfeed for anybody following that notification that I'm receiving here within my newsfeed. So I can also see posts and notifications coming from users as well. So we have this concept of collaboration between users and special interest groups, like say, for example, a purchasing group, an R&D group, a sales group, a finance group, as well as individual users posting and sharing information, as well as notifications coming directly from the ERP application. Moving back to Epicor ERP and my homepage, I just wanted to talk a little bit about searching for information as well within the application. So you have your traditional searches. For example, I log into, say, the customer card here, and when the customer card opens up, I have then a button beside the customer number, and I can click on that, and I get my traditional search, where I can search by various criteria to find a customer. So, for example, where the customer name starting at A, and hit search, and I get my usual types of, and this is very traditional. I also have within the application the ability to change that to custom searches. So for example, if I wanted to search using my search by customer contact, then I can do so by selecting that quick search, and then that gives me a different set of criteria. So now first name, last name, email address, and phone number. So you can extend the search capability very easily within the application, and these quick searches are based on business activity queries, the same queries that I mentioned when I was talking about the data analytics within the application. And so I can search by any criteria that I wish. Epicor also supports other features, for example, like predictive searching. So I know I'm looking for a customer beginning with DA, and I'd start typing and it does a quick search for me. Or if I said, actually, no, I got that wrong, I wanted the ADs, and then it starts searching for the ADs. Or I know that the customer phone number begins with 603, and I start typing, say, the 603 feature, and it will bring me to that customer, and I can call up the customer and populate the screen. So there are very flexible tools in there for helping and speed up the searching process from within screens. But Epicor also allows you to search from outside of screens. So rather than finding my way to a screen and then searching for data, what I can do is I can do a type of a Google-style search from within the Epicor application to search for data, and Epicor will give me the appropriate screen, significantly speeding up the search capabilities within the ERP system. So we'll see on my homepage, there's this little function up here called search. And if I click on that, it brings me to a search homepage. And if I wanted, a customer called me up and said, I'm calling to inquire about a particular invoice. And I say, well, what's the invoice number? And they say 10122. And I type it as they speak and hit search. It then gives me all of the hits for 10122 within the ERP system. And if I click on the results on that, I know it's an invoice. So it's going to open up the invoice card for me. So here's the invoice card for invoice 10122, where I can see all of the invoice details, header and line information. I can drill to the GL transactions. I can see any file attachments that were added to the invoice. And so again, you can pull those up. So there's the invoice document and the copy of it, which can then be sent out directly to the customer from the tracker. So a very quick and easy way to start navigating through the application. Navigate by data rather than by menu or screen. And so to give you a broader example of that, if I wanted to put in something that has I know will get a lot more hits, I'll put in my favorite customer name in here, customer Addison, and do a search. Now I get this tag cloud. The tag cloud shows me all of the hits within the system for that particular search string. So Addison is coming up quite often in shipments and orders and invoices because the font size reflects the number of hits, and not so often in customers or contacts. And I can drill from that. So I click onto invoices and I get the full invoice history for Addison. And from that, I can see that in the hits, there's also that paragraph of metadata with every invoice tracker that I can open within the application. And in that metadata, I can see the invoice number, who the contact is, whether the invoice is open or closed, its balance, and so on. And Epicor said to themselves, well, if we're delivering this metadata as part of the search results, how can we make that powerful? And so what they said is we'll add this option to switch the results to a grid view from a web view. And so by doing that, I now get the results as a grid. I still get my tag cloud, but now it's a drop list with a record count for the number of hits for my search string. And in that now I can see all that metadata delivered as a grid. And again, with grids, you'll see this in most grids. You can move the columns around. You can click on the column header to sort by that column. Within Epicor, we also add other powers into the grid. For example, if I wanted to segregate, I can group by a value to segregate. So I can see here I've got shipping invoices and miscellaneous invoices. So let's segregate by invoice type. And now it groups them, and I can focus now on my shipping invoices. And on my shipping invoices here, I can see that I've got a lot of open balances. So I'm going to right click in here and just get an idea of what that means. So there's a function called show summary. And by the way, the functions that we're looking at here, we can do in any grid. So if you remember the grids in the dashboard, we can also do that within the grids in the dashboard. So I'll take my balance column now, and I'll give me an average and a sum of that. And I'll take my invoice amount column, and I'll take a sum of that. So scrolling down to the bottom of my grid, I can now see for my shipping invoices, I've got an average open balance of 4,687 per line, giving me a total open of 337,533 on a billing history of 572,192. So that shows me I've got quite a problem with accounts receivable and credit control. So I certainly will need to communicate some information internally, and I might use my instant messaging and collaborative tool to do that. But also from an external perspective, if I want to talk to somebody within the Addison organization, and when I'm talking to them about this, they say, well, can you show us what you're looking at? I can, yes. So I'll right click on the grid and I'll copy that to Excel, and it drops it instantly into Excel, exactly as I see it within the Epicor application. So with the same groupings, the same drill downs, and the same totals. And so I'll send that to my contact in Addison's. So I'll share that, and I'll share it as an email, as an attachment. And so that will open up my Outlook. It has the email attached, and I'm going to send that through to Andrew Addison at the Addison organization so he can see it as well. So it's that easy to start extracting and using information from Epicor. So anywhere where you see a grid, you can right click on that grid and pull that grid straight out into Excel, or you can copy it to your clipboard instantly. Now that search functionality that I can access from within the Epicor application is also instantly accessible from outside of the application, say for example through a browser. And here I am not using an Epicor license. So this is free access to structured ERP data, which is quite rare in the ERP world. But I have exactly the same functionality that I had within the search tool inside the client as I have outside the client. So I've searched using the same string, I get the same tag cloud, I can drill into the same data, I can convert that to a grid view, I can export that to Excel or copy it to the clipboard as I wish. And so if I'm an Epicor user, then I can click on any of these records to access that record. But if I'm not an ERP user, obviously I won't be allowed to drill into the application itself, but I still get access to that data and to the associated metadata. So again, a very powerful tool to allow users, our non-ERP users, to get access to key areas of data. And again, we can use tools within the database to ensure full security is applied to the search results if you're allowing non-ERP user access to the search engine in a browser. Another nice thing about the browser tool is this little down arrow, which is called Install Search Anywhere. And what that does is it adds the search engine, or a component of the search engine, into local memory, allowing you to start searches from just about any place, anytime. So an example of Search Anywhere would be, say, for example, an email arrives in. So I open up Outlook and I see that customer, Andrew Addison, has sent Scott, the sales guy, an email saying, tell me what pump range you are carrying. Well, rather than having to go and open up the ERP system, Scott, because he has installed Search Anywhere, can now highlight the string pump, and just by doing Control-Shift on his keyboard, he cross-references ERP. So now I can cross-reference a string from absolutely anywhere, from a PDF document, from a Word document, a spreadsheet, a third-party application, a CAD system, a recipe system, you name it. Anywhere at all on your desktop, you can highlight a string of data, hit Control-Shift, and it cross-references that string back to your ERP system. Even better again, I have the same functionality as I had through the web search, so I can start drilling. So I can drill down into the product list. And with that, I can now change that to a grid view, or I can take this advanced insert function. So let's just click on that, and that gives me a little pop-up. And it says, further results in your search, what do you want to do? And so I'll say, I'll take a table, and I'll take all matches for the part. And here I can see all of the metadata that's within the grid, and I don't want all of that information, so we'll just click that off there. We'll just take the product code, we'll take the RRP unit price, and we will take the description of the record, and we'll hit an insert function here. So now I can do a reply to Andrew Addison and a paste into the email, and now my search grid is back within the email system, ready to go out or ready to manipulate further with the data that I've selected. So you get this really good concept of how the technologies mesh between ERP and desktop productivity tools. And again, we have that same level of integration throughout both Outlook and Excel and Word and say SharePoint and so on and so forth. And again, just another indicator of the depth of integration, we can see that there's an Epicor folder here in the Outlook environment, and we'll see the same thing in Word and Excel if we wish. And again, that allows me to synchronize data. So here's a list of customers that I'm synchronizing into my Outlook environment, as well as, say, opportunities and quotes and CRM calls and so on and so forth. And there's an Epicor menu system here where I can set the rules of that synchronization. So there's all of these different components that I can synchronize to ERP or to my Outlook environment from ERP. And I can then navigate through that information, as well as launching new things like launching a new sales order or changing customer data or adding a new service or a new call log to CRM and so on and so forth. So you get that level of deep integration into the desktop productivity tool set. So I hope that gives you a feel for the navigation tools, the search tools. And again, there are many more available within the application, but we just wanted to give you a brief idea of how people can navigate through the application, both from a menu perspective, through the home pages, through data and search tools available within the application, through the collaboration features, and so on and so forth. So in the next session then, we will start looking at the specific demonstrations. So we'll do a session on sales quotation, we'll do a session on finance, and we'll do a session on production. So thank you very much for listening, and please click on the demonstrations to see the next section. Thank you very much.